10,000 Americans turn 65 every day. It's more important now than ever to be having conversations about long-term care insurance. But what is long-term care and why is it important? Let's get into it.
What is long-term care insurance?
Yeah, long-term care is insurance that helps cover the cost of adult daycare, home health care, or nursing home facilities that's typically not covered by health insurance, Medicare, or Medicaid. You know, a lot of long-term care to me comes down to numbers. As of last year, the average monthly cost of long-term care was $6,000 a month. Most people don't factor that in when they're planning for retirement. That's a big chunk of change coming out of your 401k that you've been setting aside for 30 years.
That's an average cost, and it costs upwards of $10,000 a month. That's in today's dollars. When you're planning for long-term care, you're planning for the future. You're planning 15, 20, 30 years down the road. What are those things going to cost then?
Things that I hear when people are against paying for long-term care insurance is it's not going to happen to me. 70% of individuals need some form of long-term care at some point in their life. You know, if you've got a couple, that number goes up into the 90 percentile, that at least one of them is going to need it.
You have really two different types, right? You have traditional long-term care coverage, you have hybrid coverage. The interesting thing about traditional coverage is it's still out there. Unfortunately, it was mispriced. Their rate that they had 10 years ago was increasing every single year. When you look at hybrid products, those have gotten very popular because those hybrid insurance products give you guaranteed long-term care payouts, guaranteed death benefits. Some of them have guaranteed return of premium if you want to walk out of the plan as well. So there's really reasons for both. I'm not trying to knock the traditional long-term care entirely. There's still a place for it, absolutely. It is a cheaper option to get into. But with these hybrid products coming up, you're seeing a lot of fanfare.
Some carriers are coming out with new traditional products that are priced better. So those are still great products. They do what they're supposed to do, and we're not seeing those rate increases that you were talking about.
You're defending people against those rate increases by looking at some of those hybrid products. A big thing agents and advisors need to understand is that you get huge tax advantages with these long-term care plans. For example, we have a product where if you dump in $100,000, you get 4 times your money. So that $100,000 turns into a $400,000 pool of money that you can use for long-term care expenses. The best part about it, there's absolutely no tax that you pay on that amount. Normally, if you had a huge gain like that, you'd have to pay capital gains tax. But here, nothing if used for qualified long-term care expenses.
The other thing that agents absolutely need to know about long-term care plans is how they pay the clients, how they pay those benefits. Reimbursement and cash indemnity. Reimbursement is just what it sounds like. Your clients are going to go on claim, they're going to pay for it up front, submit receipts to the carrier, and get that money paid back to them or reimbursed to them. Cash indemnity is going to be, they're just going to get a check every month. So if they have a $6,000 benefit, they get a $6,000 check every month. But with a reimbursement plan, since you know all of that money is going towards those long-term care expenses, that money can last a little bit longer. Because if those long-term care expenses are, say, only $5,000, but you qualified for $6,000 a month, extra $1,000 is just going to be used to extend your benefit period if you need it.
I so often get calls from agents who only want to talk about cash indemnity plans. Yeah. They want to say, hey, I promised this client they're going to get $8,000 in monthly benefits. They want to get that check for $8,000. But I think a huge benefit of the reimbursement plans, and it's not something that we want to think about, it's kind of an ugly thing, unfortunately, is you have a lot of elder abuse happening. These are senior products. And if someone is caring for that person and they have $6,000 of expenses for long-term care, but they were sent an $8,000 check, maybe that person is using that $2,000 for something else. You know, it's hard to say. A reimbursement plan does protect that client a bit, knowing that they have to send receipts back to the carrier that they're going to get those benefits paid for and still leave the rest of that money into that pool with that product.
So how can you pay for long-term care to help with those tax advantages?
There's a lot of different ways to pay for these products, and sometimes this takes people by surprise. You know, you have pay to 95 options. You can just continually pay for these products. You have 5 pay options, 10 pay options. You can drop a single premium into long-term care products as well. But one that always surprises people is that with certain products, you can actually use qualified money to pay for long-term care. So let's say you're an agent, You're going into a home and you're taking down a financial needs analysis and you find out that these people really need long-term care coverage, but they don't really have the funds to pay for it. But you do find out that they have $500,000 sitting in a qualified account. Well, they can use that money out of that qualified account to pay for a hybrid long-term care policy. And the best part about this, remember, qualified plans mean pre-tax dollars. They've never paid taxes on it. If they pulled the money out, they'd have to pay taxes on that whole amount. But if they move it to a long-term care plan, then there is no tax hit if used for qualified long-term care expenses. That's such a huge, huge advantage that a lot of people don't think about. Why are people buying long-term care insurance?
It's more expensive to not buy it. That average of $6,000 a month, like we said, is something that clients are not taking into account when they're planning for retirement. The other thing, of course, is the tax advantage that you just spoke about. Third reason I would say that really isn't talked about a lot is lightening the family burden. We're seeing a lot of families that both spouses are having to work. If a parent has to come in and live with a child or expects their child to take care of them, it's just not doable. There's no one there to take care of them. And if the parent goes to live with that child, you're adding additional expense now that your children are having to pay for on top of that.
That call from clients where they say, listen, I just don't want to be a burden on anyone. How can we make that work? And that's a great opportunity to talk about long-term care insurance.
I don't think that's talked about enough. We talk about leaving death benefits to your children and leaving a legacy, but there's other plans you can do to lighten the burden now while you're all still alive. We all know someone who has needed long-term care. We invite you to share those stories below to raise awareness to how much that is affecting people's clients today. And if you have questions on how to start that long-term care conversation with your clients, give us a call today. We're happy to help. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the topics that Chris and I cover here.